Welcome to the Get Smart with Money podcast. I'm your host, Dana Hernandez, financial planner and author of Get Smart with Money, Break Free from the Struggle, Build Wealth on Your Terms, and Rewrite Your Money Story. Here we talk about money, entrepreneurship, growth, and resilience, because financial freedom is about more than just numbers. Each week, you'll get practical strategies, inspiring stories, and the motivation you need to stress less about money and create more freedom in your life. Let's get smart with money together. Thank you, and welcome to another Get Smart with Money podcast. Today we have two very special guests. I'd love to introduce you to Gino and Julia Barbaro, a dynamic husband and wife team passionate about faith, family, and financial freedom. Julia is a homeschooling mother to 6 children. She brings a wealth of wisdom around parenting, homeschooling, and building a strong family connection. Gino, a multifamily investor, business owner, and entrepreneur, helps families design lives of purpose and teaches practical steps to achieve financial independence. Together, they share a unique perspective on balancing marriage, parenting, and money management, which includes making decisions that strengthen relationships while creating generational wealth. Thank you guys for being here today.
Thanks, Dana, for having us.
Yeah, so I'm excited to talk to you because my fiance and I, when we have kids, we are considering homeschooling because there's too many things going on in the schools these days. I think we both know that.
Absolutely.
So, but what inspired you guys in the first place to start homeschooling?
Well, I'm going to jump into that because I'm going to give my version. Because when you go back into history, usually everyone has their own skewed, I guess, thought of what history looked like. But for us, nobody was homeschooling 20-something years ago.
You knew the people.
Well, you knew the people. It was like 6 people homeschooling. I mean, there was like less than 1% of the population. It was really small. And when I heard that she wanted to homeschool, I'm like, you want to what? I own a restaurant. We have public school teachers coming in all the time. I'm good friends with the superintendent. I'm going to tell these people I'm homeschooling. I felt like an idiot, to be completely honest with you. But that being said, it was probably one of the top 3 or 4 best decisions that I've ever made in my entire life, because I had the right homeschool teacher, and it was awesome. I mean, like, it took a little, it was hard in the fact that I didn't know what I didn't know, and it was untested. But what I will say is that if it doesn't work out, you can just send your kids to school. If it doesn't work out, it's not one of these mental decisions. And the last thing I'll say before I hand it off to my dynamic, beautiful wife is it's all about values-based decision-making. You have to really understand what your values are. For some people, they may not value having kids at home all the time, like not getting any sleep, having to make breakfast, lunch, and dinner all the time, just not having time to go to the bathroom. That can be challenging. And you're living day to day. You seem as if you're on an island all by yourself. That's challenging, but we knew long-term that it would be really great for our family. Our kids really got to know each other really well. They grew up together. They love each other. They love to hang out with each other. And it's really strengthened our family.
That was very sweet.
That's great.
Do the homeschooling. No, it was very stressful. I'm going to just be 100% open and honest. It was very challenging. You know, our oldest is 26. Our youngest is 10. So we still have 3. But it's probably one of the most difficult things in the reason when we started, there was no online support. It was just hands-on, 100%. But nowadays it's much, much easier. But it's important to, like you, Gino, said, to know what your values are. I think for us, faith was one of them, but also the dynamics, the connection between the family. I know he worked long hours, and I'm like, the kids aren't going to see him. They're never going to see him if they go to school, if they go to all the activities. And I thought that's a problem. And to be honest, like, looking back, the long-term goal was to do whatever, but we just one year at a time. 1 year at a time, because like I said, there were weeks and months and years, and I'm like, I just can't do this anymore because it's a lot.
Yeah, but Dana, to be honest, the other issue and the other problem is in our society, a lot of times, especially with money, but around other things, it's keeping up with the Joneses. and worrying about what the Joneses or the McCarthys or whoever, that peer pressure. And I felt that peer pressure as well, because when I told my mom that we're homeschooling, it's like she thought I was a weirdo. Like, what do you mean homeschooling? She'd never heard of it before. And I told my brother and I told customers, and it was just an awkward feeling. It really was. But I knew ultimately when we started, I met the families. This is pretty cool. I can see ourselves doing this. And then, getting up in the morning, having the kids at home, getting used to that. I actually started enjoying it early on, and we just continued along with it.
That's awesome. There's always a lot of speculation like, oh, what if I do homeschooling? What if my kids don't get socially acclimated correctly with other kids?
Right.
I mean,
Sometimes that's better.
sometimes I agree with that. But there's definitely
Yeah.
ways to make that happen. There's after school sports, there's leagues they
Yeah.
could join. There's all kinds of stuff.
There are especially nowadays, Dana, there are so many activities for homeschoolers. You could, it depends on what state you're in, but it's overwhelming the amount of stuff that they could do. And one of the things that was the number one thing that we used to hear is, how are they going to socialize? As my kids were like working at the restaurant, talking to the customers, like right in front of you, they're socializing. But people just it's almost like you have to learn how people will say things that they're feeling. Do you know what I mean? They'll criticize what you're doing because it was a fear of their own. And to recognize that, it's like, okay, that obviously they're having an issue with that. So I'm just going to back off and be confident in your decision for the moment. And if it doesn't work, like Gina said, change it.
I'd love to make 2 points on that. The first point is, if you're worrying about their social skills, I guess we're missing what school is all about. It's about the educational part and like math and science and STEM.
Correct.
Like no one has. So from that perspective, I mean, like homeschooling is superior. And I think the second point that I love to make is I'll share a story about how our kids were socially incredible. I don't know, they didn't get it from me. My son is around 7 years old at the time, and he would come into work at the restaurant. And this was a Wednesday before Thanksgiving. It's a busy night. People are coming out, getting food. And there was a doctor named Dr. Besson who'd come in every Wednesday with his wife. They'd sit down at the booth, same booth all the time. And my son would sit them, and he got to know them. And it was late at night, like around 8:30. And I'm like, Mike, it's time to go home. And he goes, okay, Dad, hold on a second. I want to say goodnight to Dr. Besson and wish him a happy Thanksgiving. And I'm like, you, my kid, I'm trying to duck out of here and like leave, exit this Irish goodbye. And meanwhile, he went up to Dr. Besson, shook his hand and said, Dr. Besson, happy Thanksgiving. Hope you have a great day tomorrow. This is a 7-year-old. So maybe he was mirroring what I did or what my wife did, but that's something that, most kids nowadays, it's very challenging. And for you as a parent, there are outlets for emotional and for getting them with other kids and getting them involved with that. But I think when you're thinking about making the decision, it really comes down to, what do you want your family to look like? If you want to have a close-knit family and you want to be able to be a big influence upon them, especially this day and age, we didn't have the internet years and years ago. We didn't have that challenge with YouTube and Instagram. With that comes other complexities and other issues. And if you want to be able to control what they're seeing and what they're doing, especially at a young age, I think homeschooling is the fit for you.
Yeah, no, it sounds like it. It kind of sounds like it would be more of a fit for any entrepreneur, honestly.
Yeah.
It's kind of goes hand in hand, it sounds like, especially the faith thing as well. I started to go to like a fellowship at a little coffee shop. There's like 10 of us around a table. This was like a year ago, maybe a little bit more. And I was just like, hey, because I had never gone to church before. Like that was just not my family. But I just started to go to this thing, and they were talking about how faith just kind of influences how you live your life. And I'm like, okay, obviously. But at the same time, I was like, hey, this kind of goes hand in hand with business. And I'm like, this goes together. So homeschooling also seems like it would be involved in the same type of wheelhouse, if you will.
It's interesting as you're saying that. What you need to understand, when you're raising a family, you are an entrepreneur. When you have a business, you have a mission statement, you have core values, you have culture, you have a cadence of accountability, you have rhythms in your business. You need to have the same thing in the family in order for it to be successful.
Yeah, the system.
You need to understand that, when are you meeting as a family? Are you guys having breakfast, lunch, and dinner? Are you guys talking? Like you said, are you all going to church? Are you believing the same things? are you getting together? What does that look like? And if you have a business and you're running a business, it's very similar things that you need to do as far as running a business and as far as running a
Well, I
family.
think too, Gino, is what you're
Yeah.
talking about reminds me of the way like you said, the way we run our home without the schooling. It's part of our family life. If that makes sense. Even the entrepreneur in us is part of our family life. We have all of our children are entrepreneurs. And I think that's because of how they were raised. If you send them to school, they learn the 9 to 5 work hours, all of
Yes, they
it's
do.
work.
They're
My kids,
programmed
well, this is
early.
awful, but we drive by and they're like, oh, it looks like a jail, but maybe like an office building. They're not sure, the kids,
Well,
it's true. But at the same time, I like you said, Dana, is when you have values in your family, you make decisions based off of those values. And that's why it's important to talk about, what do you value as a family? What do I value? Who am I hanging out with? Like, who are
Yeah.
my friends as the mother? Because the kids are mirroring me. And so
Yes.
when they bring someone home and I'm like, this is not a good example for you, like they'll understand where I'm coming from. And so that's an example. Like what we're saying yes to, what we're saying no to is really most of the time a family decision in a sense. I mean, it's up to us, but at the same time, we are openly talking about it with the kids.
And what I would say also is the whole Prussian model of schooling nowadays, especially with AI and especially with where technology is going. The problem that I have with school is I don't want my kids to get the right answer. I don't want them to learn to get the right answer. I want them to learn how to ask the right question. I want them to learn how to be curious. And if they make a mistake, I want them to learn from that mistake.
Yeah.
In school, you get punished if you make a mistake. But in the real world, if you get punished, you're just getting feedback and you're saying, well, this is what I did wrong. This is what I'm not going to do next time. And what can I learn from that? And I don't like the school system where it penalizes people and it labels people. We all have our own geniuses. Some kids are really excellent at the arts. Some kids are great at sports. Some kids are math nerds. Some kids love money like I did in finance. You need to find a kid's genius and let that kid lean into that genius and let them find their sole purpose.
Yeah, in school, they pretty much tell you what you're learning. But homeschooling, it's much more relaxed. There is a curriculum, though. I know, like, there's a lot of different platforms you can go on to find what you're supposed to be teaching and then obviously edit that how you want.
Yes, exactly.
I
And
agree.
that's the beauty of it, Dana, is that you get to, as the parent, I actually will go through it with the kids. I'm like, what programs did you like last year that you want to continue with? And we'll go with that. So it's a conversation in the house because I knew, like Gino just said, everyone learns differently.
Yeah.
And so some math programs certain kids love, some people hate them. So we go according to that and we learn from those things.
And Gino, earlier you said, you shape your family how you want it, just like being an entrepreneur. I didn't want to forget this point because it was right there for me anyway, because when you're an entrepreneur, you shape your future. You get to choose how your future looks because of the choices you're making. And that's the same what you just said with your family and homeschooling. You get to choose how your family relates to each other. You get to choose what they learn
Yes.
and then so on.
Yeah, no,
So,
it's
yeah.
what you said is so important because, even when we send them to school, and I don't mean like some people love and they thrive at school, and some people, it's just what it is. And I don't want to bash that part, but they're at the same time, they're learning what the school district wants them to learn, and that's it. And there's nothing outside of the box.
Dana,
Ever.
I lied to you. There's another thing that I don't like about school.
Okay.
And I'm going to make this point because it's very important. Where in school are we ever taught anything about finances? That's the thing that really bothers me. And the two kids right now, I'm in week 5 of teach mode with them. I've done 5 lessons so far, 1 a week on money. I've done a T12 profit and loss statement, income statement balance sheet. I've done a credit lesson. I've done a W-2 payroll lesson with them. So they're already understanding money, debt, credit, because your language becomes your experience. If it's 17 years of age, my daughter right now understands the world. She's had a job already. She sees her W-2 paycheck and she's like, well, I grossed $150. Why did I only take home 138? Well, there's a conversation there. Nobody talks about that in school. So even if your kids are in school, you should at least start talking to them about the family finances at an age appropriate. Obviously, you're not going to talk to a 6-year-old about cash flow.
Well,
when they get into their teens and they start getting into
the timeout.
timeout.
Was it cash flow for kids?
Cash flow for kids.
Okay, was the number one game in our house.
Yeah.
I don't know if you're familiar.
Yes.
That's
It's Robert Kiyosaki's Rich Dad, Poor Dad. It was a board game.
Yeah.
It was like the step up to
game.
Monopoly.
Okay.
Yes, it was a step up to Monopoly. And it was
Superior.
such a great way to teach the kids about income, expenses, your balance sheet, your income statement, investing in properties, buying stocks, all in a board game. And all of a sudden they started playing it. And that's okay, I lied. That's the other problem that I would school. They don't make it fun. They don't gamify it enough. And that's how we learn, even as adults. If you make something exciting, entertaining, hopefully like this podcast, maybe you'll remember something from the podcast. And if you can make school entertaining as well as being educational, then I think a lot more students will thrive in that model versus the model of just sitting there and trying to memorize something and trying to get an A on a test. That doesn't work long term.
And then they just end up falling asleep.
Yes.
Yeah. It's extremely boring. I mean, I didn't do too bad in school. Middle school was horrible though. Like if I was homeschooled during those 3 years, that would have been great.
I know. There's a lot more. There's a lot more emotions that go on. There's another thing that I wanted to touch on that Gino didn't, is the separation that happens. You don't even realize, because you're just used to it. Everyone goes to school. They go to their own classes. They go on their own buses. At one point, you're in different schools. And so the whole family is literally being separated. And I don't think it's very natural. So when we started homeschooling, I think that was the number one thing that I have to tell you would be the only reason, if I had to do it over again, was the fact that they have a connection with each other. I mean, the siblings, there's 6 of them, and then my husband and I, we all still live at home together. Everyone's still home, and they have a really good, deep relationship. And that, I mean, ultimately is the goal. Can you imagine having your siblings as they all have their own friends, they all do their own thing. But at the end of the day, they're so connected. And
I love
they
that.
work together.
I never really thought of that before, but yeah, of course that would happen.
Sure.
And the fact that you do mention that just also connects to faith.
Yeah.
Because faith and believing in God and things like that brings people together.
Yes.
Whereas like the school system is, for one, lying to you, scamming you, and keeping you separated from the people you're supposed to be around.
Yes.
But for some kids, it is good for them because maybe they don't come from a good household.
Yes.
So, school is a good thing.
Correct.
It's a good place. And sometimes they do thrive there. So that's good. But yeah, just kind of touching back on that, I'm like, hey, that kind of like, if you will, resembles like the devil, keeping your family separated.
Separated, 100%. So it's so accurate. And I don't think we realized the impact because, as the parents, we make the decisions. So like Sunday would come and it wouldn't even be a question, oh, can we do sports on Sunday? Because no, first of all, it's a family day and we're going to go to church, and that's what our Sunday's for. And so it was basically the values-based decision. This is something we value. And so it's an easy answer to them. Not that they ever wanted to do sports on Sunday, but if it came up, it was like, well, no, we can't because we have church. And so that's why when faith, we sit and we pray together when we eat a meal, which is all the time. Like Gina said, 3 meals a day, we're all sitting there connected. We have conversation, but we put God there in the meal. And I think that's something that maybe, I'm sure people do pray when they're at church, at school, but it's something as a family unit. And so we're learning that faith together as a family.
I'm not here to bash on school, I promise, but here's another thing that really enlightened me. The only 2 times in our lives that we are with our own peer groups, age groups, is in school and in nursing homes. Every other aspect of our life, when we're in our 20s and 30s, we're working with older people, we're working with younger people. But in that school thing, you have 16-year-olds with 16-year-olds. And then you have, adults who are, if you think about it, that's not natural. So most kids in school, and they're, mid-teens, like I said, an 11-year-old is not equipped to be able to speak to somebody who's older because they're never around other peer groups. That's one of the real struggles that I had with school, whereas my children were able to mature a lot quicker and they were hanging out with their siblings and their siblings' friends. So my 11-year-old went to a party this weekend. This weekend, she went with her siblings. The kids at that party were 18, 19, 20. and also 11 and 12-year-olds. Typically, when you go to
Yeah.
school and there's a party in school, 11-year-olds go to 11-year-olds' houses and they don't see
Yeah.
anybody else. Whereas this is more like what real life is all about. You're
Yeah.
going and you're meeting other peer groups, not just your
Yeah.
own.
You learn from, so in other words, like if you're homeschool family, usually you become friends with other homeschool families. And so
Right.
you have all sorts of ages learning from each other. And that's how the original schoolhouse was, right? It was just a bunch of kids in a class learning from each other. The older kids would help with the younger kids. I mean, our Michael, what is he, 23? He helps Laura with her math sometimes. And it's adorable and it's so sweet.
Cool.
You know, there's a lot of arguing and bickering, of course,
Yeah.
but they're real kids, by the way. But at the same time, there's a beauty to it because it's a different perspective on both. They're both learning how to interact with that age group that they would normally you would never see that.
Do you think that could be like a connection of why there's so much drama in workplaces?
Oh, 100%.
Oh my God.
We're
Drives
opening
me
your eyes
crazy.
here.
Yeah.
100%.
It's
Absolutely.
interesting that you say drama, because drama, if you think about it, to us as Catholics, is gossip. It is.
Oh yeah, for sure.
To a point, and it's interesting. Boy, I have a lot to say about this topic. Also, I could just go on and drone on about it
the
for a while.
workforce?
About the drama and all that, because it really
It's horrible.
it's one of those things where it comes back to your values. And I'll give you a perfect example. When I was at the restaurant, I was surrounded by waitresses, busboys, dishwashers. They love the drama. That's what they like to talk about.
Yeah.
And I abhorred it. I wanted to know where's the next deal. I wanted to know like where the stock market is, where's the gold price of gold, where's oil, and they were droning around like nonsensical stuff that, and it's interesting because we were just talking about this. It's the tribe mentality. That tribe is talking about that nonsensical stuff. I want to extract myself from that tribe and find the tribe who's talking about things that are more empowering, that are more uplifting. They're going to more of a growth mindset. And that's the struggle that I had when I was at the restaurant for all those years. It's not so much that I hated the business. I just wasn't my tribe. And I could not relate.
Too, Gino, if you think about it, now that we're going down this road, you think about when you do go to school, you know, you're in a classroom, you're not allowed to talk, you're not allowed to, ask a question that the teacher will look bad because then you get in trouble. And so you can't ask, you can't be curious. If you are curious or you ask a question and they don't like you, you're in trouble. You're going to label you, send you to the principal, you get kicked out, whatever. And then you're left alone with these kids for lunch class, recess. There's no parental authority at that point. And so, you can act however you want. Nobody's going to notice. And I feel like at home, it's a little different because I'm there. And so if there is an issue, and yes, there's drama. We have 5 daughters and 1 son. Yes, there is drama. But the drama is not, like Gino said, it's not gossip. It's not that mean, like that mean girl. We don't have, that is not,
we have no passive.
We don't have that because
Mm-hmm.
because the parent's there. And it's how we talk to our children, how we listen to them. And we've learned a lot because we've gone through a lot. Our kids are not perfect. We're not a perfect family. But at the same time, we're there and we're learning how to handle certain situations. We're learning how to handle different personalities all in one group.
I'm still learning how to handle my wife. Can you imagine after 27 years, it's been, I'm still learning how to do that.
We're coming a long way.
Yeah, that's just an interesting thing to think about because I've quit a lot of jobs being out here, like living on my own in Nevada. Like I've quit a lot of jobs because of drama. Because I just couldn't, like, especially this one restaurant. It was the first restaurant I ever worked at. And it was just like the assistant manager, if you want to call her that, and the bartender. They were just like super cliquey. And I was there all day long with them. And it was just like blah, 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 all day long. And I was just like, I'm trying to like get my podcast going. I'm trying to do all this stuff like on the side of working. Like I don't have time for this stuff that's in my ear all day long, and it's just draining and it's exhausting. So even though I was making a bunch of money there, I loved the restaurant itself. It was awesome, but it's not worth my mental state. So yeah, it sucks. I've just been to so many places and I just couldn't do it anymore.
You know what it is, Dana? I wrote a book called Happy Money, Happy Family, Happy Legacy. And what happened was you were earning unhappy money. You're still earning money.
Yes.
You're stuck there. And it's not that the money makes you happy. It's the environment. It's the purpose. It's the impact that you're creating. I bet you're probably making a lot less money on this podcast, just going out there on a whim. But the
Zero.
podcast lights you up. The podcast, you meet guests.
Mm-hmm.
You're learning. You're with your tribe right now. This is where you want to be. So you're creating, in essence, for the future, happy money. And I think you said your podcast is called Get Smart with Money. Well, you should also get happy with money as well. Because if you can understand something that lights you up and your passion and how to use money for impact, and especially to help impact others, that's where the genius is in life. And that's where the happiness is in life. It's not the money that you make, but the impact you create. And the more impact you create and the more results that you get, the irony is the more money you'll make.
Too, Gino, the whole we're talking about homeschooling in general, but I think it led all of our children and myself, by the way, to be in the entrepreneur world because of what you're talking about. Because like my daughter said, she's 26. She said what she said the other day. She's like, I realized that I'm an entrepreneur. She's like, I really can't work at a place. I can't work because of what you just said. Now, if you could choose those people, if you could be an entrepreneur and include the people you want to, that's different, and you work together, and that's fine. But I think that homeschooling in our family anyway led all the kids to just have that desire to be entrepreneurs and to make money.
That's
and to
awesome.
Make happy money, like Gino was talking about, because we, as a family, we decide what charities to give to or to work at or whatever it is, and we do it as a group.
And we've also started a company called Barbaro 360. So we're working together as a family. We want to create a media brand based around changing the world one family at a time, to teach others that, having a big family, being married, those are actually cool things. Those are what most people unfortunately don't understand, but that's what they aspire to.
Yeah.
They know there's something really good, inherently good about having a family, about being married, about being faithful, about struggling, raising your children, about a father being the protector, being the provider. There's something good about that. And we want to promote that within our media brand and having the kids being part of that mission. So to us, that is what has led us to the happy money there. And if we can create that and we can impact and help other families realize that, there's nothing better in this world to see that families are so important in this economy and in the world.
Yeah, there's so many people out there who want to stray away from the marriage thing and having a kid, and it's just, again, faith is involved there, and there is no faith in those people who think that way. It's sad. But I think a lot more people recently, because of recent events, have kind of woken up and, they're like, oh, right, like marriage, that's what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to create a family and thrive together and do the best you can, serve other people. So,
No, I love that. And I too want to say that, I stayed home and I still stay home. But
he has the life.
There's a pull. Oh, yeah. I live the life. But no, I do. I actually do. It's a lot of work, but it's worth it. How's that? But there is a pull. Society tells women that your worth is your career. And there's nothing I could just tell you. You can have that, and that's your choice. And you can go down that road, and maybe you'll be happy. That's fine. There's another choice, though, and to have a family, you can stay home. You have to usually, we were talking about this recently. It used to be, the husband could work and you could stay home. And the society now, I feel like with with the bills and with all that, you have to either do really well or you have to have two jobs.
Right.
But the whole point is staying at home with the kids. Like you cannot replace that. A mother is, yes, there's no sleep, all of that things that Gino said in the beginning, but you're raising these little people to be out in the world and to make a difference. And so we don't see it in the beginning. We don't see the value. We don't see how important it is. But wow, when the kids get older, you're like, okay, I understand now. So you don't see it right away. You can't see it right away.
It's interesting because I had it all lined up. Dana. I was a smart guy getting married. My wife was getting a cosmetology license. She's going to stay home in the basement, cut grass. I mean, I'm sorry, cut hair. We're making about $1,000 a week cutting hair. And that dream just went up and poof because of the whole gossiping thing. And she worked at a couple of
Oh,
salons.
That's one
They
of the
do it.
worst. It's one of the worst.
100%.
So
Yeah.
I was going down that route. I was like, you know what?
I taught my daughter how to color my hair because I couldn't go anymore. I'm like, I just can't go.
But the thing about Get Smart with Money, we're planning it. So there are ways to do it. If you do want to stay home, you can stay home and work.
And there are times too, Gino. There are times where I could have gone to work and done things and then just so I just want to say this. It's important to know that
ebb and flow,
sometimes
what you're saying.
you can't do it all. And I hear a lot of people like, women, you can have it all. You can have the career, you can be a mom, and yes, you can, but you can't be in both places at once.
Mm-hmm.
Even if I'm working from home, I am not present. 100% not. Like the kids come in and I'm irritated. Like, get out. So there is something to that, and I have to be honest. And it's okay. There are some times where I want to be a full stay-at-home mom, and there are some times where I'm like, okay, I can have the room now. I could go out and venture out a little bit. And that's okay. And it's just to be honest, open, and to be clear on what you're feeling about it.
Yeah, exactly. So, Gino, you said you've always been interested in money, right?
Yes.
But you've never really been too interested in money until you guys really connected on it. So what's your money story?
Yeah. So we came from completely different backgrounds. Irish Catholic, they were a big family. They worked really hard, but they didn't save. They didn't think about the future. It was kind of like living paycheck to paycheck type mentality. And the conversation that I absorbed growing up was that people with money are not the best people. And so I was very cautious because I'm like, all right. And then I met this guy. I'm like, okay. And so I was torn. Like, okay, he is very orderly. He's very controlling. He's very saving, and all these Italian background entrepreneurs. And I felt guilty. I felt like I was being pulled. I felt like Gino said, I felt like I was leaving my tribe. Like I wasn't being responsible and I was leaving them. And so there was a lot of guilt and shame, and for many, many years, to the point where we didn't even know that. I didn't know I was feeling that until not too long ago. But it showed up in our marriage. It showed up in our conversation when we talked about money. I was just like uncomfortable. I was a little bit like, we didn't talk about it, and I kind of gave him all the reign. I let him take care of the money, and I took care of the kids. So he was very controlling around the money, about the bills, about what we're spending. And I became very controlling on raising the kids. And it worked because we're here, but there was a lot of struggle, a lot of quiet struggle that we didn't realize.
It's interesting. She's talking about her revelation after I sort of, what's the word? I don't want to say convinced. I sort of told her, I said, you've got to become a money coach. And she's like, I don't want to become a money coach. I don't want to know
There's
about
a lot
finance.
of resistance.
Like, it's not coaching on money. It's coaching on the psychology and the relationship of
the
money.
Emotion. But money has so much emotion.
Yeah. Understanding your money bio, understanding where you came from, understanding that you've adopted all these patterns and behaviors and beliefs, probably from your parents, maybe your great grandparents, maybe siblings, and you're taking them into your adulthood. And all of these beliefs and ideas that you have today are a manifestation of what happened in the past. And you don't even know that. Like, why are you feeling so guilty about spending $1,000 on this purse? We can afford it. And unconsciously, you're like, well, I think people who spend that kind of money are just bad. They're just evil. Well, if you believe that, then that's true.
The question is, where did I believe that?
Exactly.
And so when we uncovered that, and Gino has his faults too, by the way, but when we uncovered that, I could say, I could say, okay, I understand where it's coming from. And I don't like that, because that's a false information. I know our values. I know how we spend money. I know what we donate. I know all these things, and that's not true. And so, okay, so let's change those behaviors. Because what I believe about money showed up in, even when a bill would come and be like, what's this bill? I'm like, I'd feel like very uncomfortable. Now it's like, oh, I had to buy this for whatever it was. And it's it's confident.
My quote unquote, what did you call them?
I don't know.
Challenges yes. When you're getting married and you're young and you have a business and you're planning the future, as a male, our overriding behaviors, beliefs are that we have to be the protectors and the providers. I came from a place of two immigrants that saved money. We lived in, even though we made money, we did well. The mentality was a little bit more about scarcity. So even though we have a little pile of money here, I'm driving a nice little green Beamer. I have no student debt. She's got student debt, so I got to pay her student debt off. Is that fair? That's scarcity, right? We're getting married. It's one, right? But it's very difficult and it can be very challenging. I was just afraid of the future. I mean, you start having kids, and all of a sudden, people are like, "How many kids are you gonna have?"
But the fear was overwhelming.
Yes.
And so I think that's something that you weren't aware of that
Absolutely not.
either until recently, where how that fear actually came out as, oh, I'm not going to talk about it. And so for years and years, we actually didn't talk about certain things, which affects us. And that's one of the things, I mean, we all know that we know communication, like, will save your marriage. But if you don't know why you're feeling what you're feeling, you don't even know what to communicate.
Well, it's interesting because everyone blames money as the number one problem. Money is the symptom.
Yeah.
It's not the cause. I think the cause is those fears, those anxieties, that shame of money. Like, I'm an entrepreneur. I have to be able to save money, and I've got to be able to build these businesses. I can't go out and spend 10 grand on a Louis Vuitton bag. That's not an asset. I'm just thinking about money. I can't go and, like, I have to buy only
buy
assets.
me those. Your mom always bought me
Well, and
purses.
that's what they valued, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
That wasn't what I valued. And I valued, hey, I need to have enough money in the future so that if my kids want to go to college, I can
Yeah,
help
but it
them
was
pay for
fearful,
college.
Dana.
Yeah,
It was his fear was so strong that it really did affect our relationship. And we stopped talking, we stopped communicating about it. And I think I want to emphasize how important that when you stop talking about what's bothering you with your spouse, like, it's really hard to get out of that hole because I think so much time goes by and you become used to it, and you become the feeling of like, well, it's too late. It's too late to talk about it because it happened so long ago. But you're still living with that that feeling. Like, it doesn't go away. So you do have to bring up the past at times. And we've gone through a lot over the years about just going back to our, like, when we first met, and just kind of diving into what was going on at the time. And we're bringing up stuff, and it's like, it's so healing in a relationship. It is never too late to work on your relationship.
Our mentor calls it financial intimacy. Some people may think that's a little corny, but if you can become intimate with your partner about finances, I think you can talk about anything, because money is one of the last taboo subjects about it. And, like, everyone has their own beliefs, how they were raised with it. But if you can sit down and have a conversation and say, where do you see ourselves in the next 5 or 10 years? How are we going to accomplish that? What does our cash flow plan look like? Where do we want to divert and put our resources, and have that conversation and really try to be empathetic and try to feel what the other side is feeling? That's important. That's when you start really connecting with somebody else and creating a much deeper and better relationship.
Yeah. And with my fiance, the money conversation pretty much came easy. I mean, this is kind of what I do anyway. I'm also a financial planner on the side. So, but I put myself in debt in my 20s. So it's just kind of funny how, like, everything came around in the perfect kind of way to introduce me. Like, the business just fell in my lap one day. I was like, oh, well, this is what I want to do. I'm in debt. I can get myself out of debt and help other people. Hell yeah. Like, so it just made sense. And then when we met, he was already just a little bit better than me at saving. Because I had put myself in debt. So I usually was working like 2 jobs, and I was just trying to climb out of the hole by myself. I had roommates, tons of issues there over years and years. And it's just, everything kind of just flowed. It just glided with him in the beginning. And just money was a topic that we still bring up all the time, and how to save and what we're saving for. And then we just save to save, which is great. And a lot of people have only goals they save for, but we are just really trying to save right now. We're just in the building stage.
That's great.
That's so good.
Yeah.
And like, I want to emphasize this, and I don't know what you, but anyone listening, is that my husband would save to save. Yes, to build houses and stuff, but there was a fear tactic behind there. He was right. You. And so I think always the question is, why am I
Julie's
saving?
painting me a picture of being in the fetal position.
You were a tyrant. It was a tyrant. You were a tyrant when it came to savings. No, seriously, because if we had something that would come up, like braces or whatever it was, something that needed to happen, me coming home, and this is for you in the future and anyone listening married, me coming home and saying to my husband, hey, here's the bill. This is what it's going to cost. And him kind of like overreacting because he's trying to save. Now, who I feel responsible. I felt that that was on me, that he was mad at me because he was mad. It was clear. But the problem is,
Wasn't mad at you though.
no, but you weren't mad at me. But my take was that it was my fault, and so I had to learn things. So what I learned was I'm going to take him to the dentist next time. So the secretary is going to tell him what the bill is, and it bypasses me, and it worked. And I was like, oh, this is great. But that's not the problem. Was I didn't communicate with him. But what I'm even getting to is that the kids at home notice what's happening too. And so once you starting having children, and yes, you're trying to save, but it's fearful savings.
Right.
Then the kids are getting that too. And we had one of, because as we were doing money coaching, I asked my kids, they said, what is your memories of money when you were little? Like, what do you remember from us? And one of my daughters, so she's 20, she said she remembers when she was like 6, we went to the clothing store buying clothes, and she wanted these pajamas. And so she put them on the counter with the rest of the clothes. And my husband had a reaction like, oh, like another one. Like it was a negative, again.
There's only 4 kids I'm shopping for. There's only $600 on the counter. Let's
his reaction.
It wasn't like it was. Yes.
But this is coming from a younger person's
I'm agreeing with you. Yes.
Which is very, very important.
Yes.
And so she took that memory, and I'm like, Sophia, you still do that. You still ask me, is it okay? Are you sure? Because I know it's a lot, whatever it was. And half the time it's not a lot. It's a small amount. But to her, she felt like a burden. And I was like, wow, I didn't realize how emotional money can be, because the kids only see and feel your reaction to it. And that's what she's taking. And so now she's an adult, still remembering this story as it happened yesterday and making decisions based off of that memory.
Yeah, it's crazy.
So that's why we got to go. We have to uncover a lot of my husband. It's all my husband's fault. I always tell people, I like, we're going to do your money bio, and I just want to tell you, it's all your parents' fault. So I love telling I'm just kidding. I'm just as bad. So.
Yeah. So how do you address, what do I want to ask? Because I don't think kids should really be involved in so many money conversations, especially like when it's like your bills that are coming in the mail.
Yeah.
Because it's just an automatic stress. It's not happy money.
Yeah.
So how do you just kind of keep that away from them? It's hard to, though.
Well, we don't.
I don't think
there's yes and no.
I don't think you should keep it away from them. I think they should, because if you avoid the topic, it's even worse. Because when they get older, they don't know how to deal with it.
Yeah.
People who don't open up their bills, who don't look at their credit cards. There's something going on there where their parents never talked about it. Now, obviously, if you're in dire straits, you don't want to really share a lot. Right. But at the same time, go to the grocery store with $100 in cash. Let the kids do groceries spending for $100 and see what that's a great homeschool lesson. Yeah. Most adults can't pass it. Then all of a sudden, they see that, hey, money's a limited resource. It doesn't matter how much you make. We all have a limited amount. How and where are we going to spend it? So I think you need to have that conversation with the kids as well. Yeah. And then even when they're young, the whole idea of saving for a young child, it's almost like a punishment.
I think we made a big mistake when it came to, for instance, when the kids would get a check for Christmas or whatever it is, my husband would literally take it and say, I want to put this in the bank. And when did you discover that?
I mean, several years ago, we started the jar system where we get these plastic jars, one for saving, one for spending, and one for charity. Obviously, if grandma's going to give them $100 for Christmas now, I could give them $100, put X, allocate a certain amount. And I like to use cash because kids need to see the money, right? That's the thing. So if they see $30 in saving, $30 in spending, $30 in charity, whatever the breakdown is, whatever you want to do. I'd probably do 40, 20, let's say. But at least the saving part is you want them to develop the habit of having resources on the side. This is part of getting smart with your money, having an emergency budget, having in business, if you're an entrepreneur, you need to have capital reserves. Then the spending part, I don't want to be like Dave Ramsey and cut up my credit cards and cut up my debt and to say to myself, I'm going to limit my life, because then what happens is it's almost as if somebody who's trying to go on a diet. They weigh 300 pounds. They go on a massive diet. 6 months later, they're down to 180 pounds. Well, they've gone through torture. Why do they fall off the wagon and jump back on? Because they've been limiting themselves forever. And it's the same thing with money. If you do that with money, unconsciously, you're taking that joy or that spending away. At some point, it's going to come back. The dopamine's going to want it, and you're not going to be able to withstand it. So for me, letting them spend their money the way they see fit. As a young person, you're starting to make decisions based on how you want to spend. And all of a sudden, you become autonomous. And as a child, that's what you want your children to do. When they become young adults, 18, 19, they can start making decisions on their own, not where they're telling them all the time what to do or how to spend it. They can start creating those habits when they're younger.
Too, I think we, the parents, are our children's, we're their example. So we, and so it's important. And a lot of people don't know. We've learned there's no handbook that comes with, with our family. You know what I mean? So you kind of learn as you go, and you learn from your mistakes and all that. And we've learned that having the kids, doesn't matter how old they are, involved in where we're spending money, it does help them to understand and learn the language and learn what things cost. And when we mess up, when we're like, oh my gosh, my husband has plenty of bad deals over the years, just a couple out of the good ones, but it's good for them to hear that, because it shows them that, hey, you're going to mess up. You're going to make some really poor choices when it comes to money, and it's okay. As long as you're learning from it, okay. But like Gino said, we still go to the grocery store all together sometimes. And it's good for them to see what stuff costs, because otherwise we learn to waste, right?
You've got problems when you leave Costco and the guy goes, wow, you bought a lot. So, when the guy at Costco is telling you that, you've got issues. I'm just saying.
Every time when we all go, it's like, you having a party? No. My kids are like, no, we're just home. But I think it's important that kids do know what the electric costs. But at the same time, like we said with the conversation with our daughter about it's the vocabulary and how we're saying things. I think sometimes we need to be aware of that. And we mess up quite often. But if I'm like, oh my gosh, the bills for the electric is so high, the kids feel so guilty that maybe the air conditioning was on too much or whatever it is. And so it's important to have an open conversation of what that means. I'm not putting all the pressure on you guys to be, hot and sweaty at nighttime. We are in Florida, but it's important to have the conversation of what stuff costs, so that, first of all, no one becomes spoiled and just assumes that that's just how life is. When they get married, they're not going to talk about bills, and just so that they know to be responsible.
Yeah, I remember when I started working, because I didn't know at all, what the electric bill was, how much it was. I didn't know any of that. So I had no concept of like how much 10 grand really was. And so that's kind of where I got into trouble with my credit card.
Yes.
Yeah.
Let's go back. Let's go back to the school component of it.
Exactly.
I teach my kids about a cash flow plan. It's basically a budgeting plan. What income is coming in, and that's dependent upon how much you want to work. And then what are your expenses going out? You're trying to really limit and direct the money where you want it to go to. And then what's left over at the end of the month? That's the cash flow. And I'll tell you, 90% of adults don't understand what that is. And if you can teach your kids that as they're getting through high school and going into college, they'll become more responsible. They'll understand it.
Even have like the budget, like our budget, the kids know. Like you'll go through it with Michael. In high school, I actually had to fail algebra in 9th grade in order to take a math class that taught me, at the time, it was a long time ago, but how to balance a checkbook, how to pay for insurance, all of the basic important needs that we have right now in life that they don't teach in school because they want algebra, pre-algebra, whatever, all the algebra classes and the calculus and all. But I'm like, and I remember being there, I'm like, to my friends, I'm like, you guys don't learn this? I'm like, why isn't everyone learning this? This is like the basic banking system. Like how to go to the bank and the adult, everything you need as an adult.
Yeah.
But that was because I failed algebra. So I'm like, so
that's
thankful.
ridiculous too.
Yeah, you know what I mean?
Why is that like under algebra, the base
well, it's for
class?
the kids that don't want to be a math major or whatever it is. It's like, no, this is an important class, but nobody teaches it. No. But we do, as just for life skills.
Of course, it's important life skills. All I remember learning in school was how to write a check. That's
Yes.
it.
And hence nobody's writing checks anymore.
Right.
Well, Venmo, we got
No.
PayPal, we got
Yeah.
Zelle, so
Yeah.
nobody's writing checks.
Yeah.
So that's pretty much obsolete.
Yeah. And then they go over like the definition of compound interest, and
Yes.
that's it.
Mhm.
You're supposed to understand what the definition means, and it's like, well,
Right.
there's no practice with that.
Yes.
So yeah,
Yes.
it's insane.
Yes.
But so some of my friends, they'll tell me their conversations with their kids. One in particular, and he's 9 now.
Mhm.
And they were like, she just went through a divorce and stuff. So he saw all that at such a young, impressionable age,
Yes.
unfortunately.
Yeah.
But he was freaking out, like crying, freaking out about like not having enough money. And I was like, that's
That's hard.
so bad. I
Yeah.
was like, he really shouldn't be worrying about that. So it
Agreed.
made me think like, well, what is she saying around
Yes.
him?
Mhm.
And it's just, I want to be more conscious
Mhm.
when I'm a parent. And I think that I will be, just
Yeah.
having these conversations and just knowing from my friends' kids'
Yeah.
conversations and stuff. It's just like a hard thing for me to hear,
Yeah.
you
No,
know?
that's really difficult, and it's unfortunate that a lot of times, in this case, the mother is obviously saying things to the son and putting the responsibility on a 9-year-old. I
Or
think that's
around him, period.
yes,
You know,
just being
yeah.
because I don't think people realize that our kids listen and hear everything.
Yeah.
And I'm not kidding. Okay,
Yeah.
when you don't think they're listening, they are listening. And so it's important if we do have a conversation that I don't want the kids to hear, because I don't want to put that fear on them.
Right.
We have to leave the house. We can't be
Mhm.
home because I mean, our was she 11? Laura, she will hear. She'll talk about things. I'm like, how did you even hear that? And so we actually have to leave, otherwise they hear. And like I said before, they feel the pressure. And some of us children, because I can relate in a sense because I remember my mom was single, and she raised us. She did a really amazing job, but she was very fearful that would we have enough money. And so I remember taking on that feeling
Mm.
of hers. And it stayed with me that's one of the reasons why I felt guilty marrying Gino, was because he did well with money. He was very responsible. He was very good at savings and spending and all that. And she wasn't. And so
Mhm.
that's why I felt guilty leaving her, because I knew what she felt when she was younger, raising a family,
Mhm.
was that, are we going to be able to afford food? Like the basics of basics. And so a little
Mhm.
child feeling that, unfortunately, it's not their fault, but they do. It's a reality. And we can
Yeah.
always talk about it with the kids. We can always communicate it with the kids. But it's so important to let our children know that they're not responsible for what our responsibilities.
And what you're both talking
Yeah.
about,
Right.
we call them money traumas.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
basically what they
Yeah.
are.
Mhm.
And they're deep, they're embedded, they are in the subconscious. And as we get older, we're acting based on
Mhm.
that stuff. We can develop really good patterns from our parents, right?
Mhm.
But in money coaching, we really focus on the negative patterns or the negative behaviors
Yeah.
of that fear of not having enough. Imagine a 9-year-old thinking to himself, we're
Mm.
not going to have enough
Yeah.
money. It's
Yeah.
incredible.
But
As
it's very common, though.
yeah, as he becomes an adult,
Yeah.
he may get some money, but
Yeah.
unconsciously, is he even gonna,
Yeah.
is he worthy of having that
Yeah.
money? Is he gonna keep the money?
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
that money is probably gonna depart from him, and he won't know why
Mm.
he struggled with money. So I guess my main point is just parents, just be
Mm.
careful. If there are money traumas that are being created, just sit down and try to figure out what they are, and just have a frank conversation with your child about them.
Conversations. And I think it's important is that sometimes we have a conversation with our children and we're like, all right, good. It's all done.
Yeah.
And we're like,
Say
got
things
it.
as yes.
But all of these things are ongoing, because
Yeah.
they'll remember one thing and they will, and so it's an ongoing. Parenting is ongoing. Being married is ongoing. You'll mess up, you'll start over, you'll apologize, you'll forgive. And it's an ongoing relationship. And I think that's important. It's not, oh, I figured it out.
Mhm.
It's just family life is ongoing.
And that's the same thing with money. Your
Yeah,
relationship with money is
completely.
ongoing, it's complex, and it's ever changing. If you're the same person you were 10 years ago as you are today with
Mhm.
money, I mean, I find that very hard to believe. The person I was 10 years ago is a lot different than the person I am today. And I'm probably 5 or 10 years from now, I'll be a lot different.
Mm.
It's evolving, it's ever growing, and hopefully people are out there and have an open mind, because once again, get smart with money. Money is a game. It just has rules to it, just like soccer and football. If you learn these basic rules and you give yourself some time and give yourself some grace, you'll do okay with it. But you really need to address the relationship you have with it before you start making it. That's what you need to worry about.
Yes, that's definitely true. Definitely true. And I didn't know any of that when I first started working. Nobody really does
No.
because they're not taught that in school. So
Yes.
super unfortunate that everyone's kind of just thrown out into the
Yeah. But
wilderness
it's even
like
before
that.
that, Dana. It's even before school. It's really ultimately what you witness at home before all of that. Even when you're 3,
Mm-hmm.
like your earliest memories of money, it really shapes your views and it
Mm-hmm.
shapes your behaviors and the patterns you have now as an adult. I mean, I
Mm-hmm.
just turned 50 and I just discovered, wow, I don't like this. I don't like my belief of money. So now I'm going to do something. And I did.
Mm-hmm.
And I did money coaching. I went through the program and I was like, wow, this is what I needed at this time. And I'm not the type to be like, oh, I should have done this 20 years ago, because I wouldn't have, it led me to who I am right now.
Mm-hmm.
All the mistakes, all the fears and all the not talking about it, all of those things led me to where we are now. But it's never ever too late to figure out, okay, let me learn why I have a fear of money and I'm ignoring it. And so it's just a little something. It's never too late.
Yeah, there's always a different perspective
Yeah.
that you can learn. So,
Mhm.
so Juliet, do you have a curriculum? I'm assuming you probably have a curriculum that you share with other homeschooling parents.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love, well, okay. So we are about, there's a lot of, you buy a whole box of every subject for your kids. That worked for us for a couple of years. And now I have, math. I have online. It's Homeschool Connections. They do it in a group, live class. There's religion there.
Cool.
There's history they take there. A lot of the stuff we have books. Explode the Code is excellent. Easy Grammar is an excellent program. And so we pick and choose over the 20 plus years of homeschooling. I've discovered what works really well for our family. And I mean, I'm going to say I probably have K through 12 up in the attic of like 3 programs each that I have to at some point get
Awesome.
rid of, only because we don't use them anymore because the kids are like, I really
Yeah.
like this one. And I'm like, oh,
Okay.
we already started it, so I can't return it. So put it in the attic. But at the same time, it's one of those things that whatever works for you and your family, there's so much education online. There's so much, my recommendation is find a local group. And it doesn't have to be a co-op. That's a very popular right now. Co-op would be, you go once a week and other
Okay.
parents teach the kids, but it kind of has a school vibe and it
Yeah.
comes with drama. And so we did it for 2 years and then we're out because my kids are like, there's too much drama. It's the
Yeah.
same,
It's
it depends on
crazy.
the kids, but it's really about sports. And ultimately the kids just want to play. That's all they want. And so if you could do like school at home, go find a community of homeschoolers that just want to play soccer, or tennis, baseball, whatever it is.
Pickleball
Whatever
nowadays.
it is,
Oh,
that's
yeah.
ultimately what they're looking for. They don't need structure. They just want to go out and play somewhere with friends. And again, families that share your values. I can't tell you how important that is. And even your faith. If that's one of your values, it's really, really important that you're surrounded by people that don't bash marriage. They don't bash how many kids you have. They don't bash your religion. They don't bash what you're working toward. I think that's more important than you think, because the
It is.
kids are going to be growing up with these people. They're going to become friends with them, and who your friends are do matter as
Yes.
adults.
Yeah, definitely. I've learned that.
Yeah.
I've been in business for 5 years now, maybe I
Mhm.
guess 6 now. And I was around all the wrong people,
Yes.
but I kept hearing from all these trainings and webinars, like, surround yourself with your top 3 people who are thinking the same as you, who have the same values as you, who want to grow as well as you do.
Mhm.
Like, and I was like looking at all my friends and I was like, no. And I cut all of them off.
Mm.
Yeah.
Good for you. And really, and I think sometimes we have to make hard choices. And
Yeah.
it's really powerful that you did that, because when at some point you have children, they see that. And they
Yeah.
respect you for that because they're like, oh, okay. So if someone's a really bad influence on me, I have to make a decision. It's either hang out with them or cut them off.
Yeah.
And if
it
it's going to
sucks
affect you,
sometimes.
100%.
Yeah.
And we've done it. And I completely agree. And it's caused a lot of trauma sometimes for some of our children. But in the end of the day, they understand. So
Yeah. And it's just much better in the long run if you don't have them around.
Sure.
So
Yeah.
yeah. Well, I'm really excited for your guys' brand to come out and everything. Maybe we can do a future episode. I absolutely loved that conversation, and I hope a lot of the listeners got something from it, and maybe they'll kind of consider homeschooling instead of sending their kids to school where they're not teaching them really anything of value. So
Thanks,
Thank you,
Dana.
Dana. This was an amazing conversation. And thanks for doing this.
Of course, of course. Thank you for doing what you do. Please like, review, share, and subscribe to this podcast, and follow us on Instagram at GetSmartWMoneyPodcast, as well as checking out our website at GetSmartWithMoneyPodcast.com.